There's Stacy.
Hey, sorry. Good morning.
Hey, we call the meeting to order. We're gonna hold off on approval of the minutes until towards the end of the meeting after we go over the budget discussion. To make sure that that's all correct and it's all what we remember happening. Visitors' comments? Great. Old business. And so you want to go into budget now?
We certainly can, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, let's.
I'll put I'll share up the screen so everyone can see the budget document we had open and such last month. The items down here on the bottom that we discussed, the water saver hanging baskets. We cut that number down to this end from Elm down this way, and then the number of poles to that side from Stacy's area of the building there down to the Rock Hill.
Okay.
Making sure.
Mhm.
So that number's cut down. Bench repair we put in for 10,000 per your minutes. The lighting addition, we added 5,000 in for that as well. And then nylon bows we have quoted, and we do suggest that we actually move that. If you want to do it this year, again, we do it this spring. We can get one more year out if we want to put it in this budget for Christmas of 23. So it's a matter of timing. We suggest just if we want to do it for this coming Christmas of 22, that we make the order this spring at some point so that we have it in hand and in place.
We need
We need to either
now
decide
for this Christmas
exactly, or
wait till next year at this time, or maybe hopefully things will be better.
right, right, exactly.
Right, and
Yeah.
then for next year.
Yes,
So I am of the opinion that, of course, we should get as much life out of our bows as we can. So the other ones are going to go away just as fast. So does anyone have any objection to holding off on the bow purchase until next year? While our bows are still fine right now? Any objections? Okay, and we're just going to stay with the bows where they are for this Christmas 2022.
got it. So the two in yellow, the soil and plants, biweekly fertilization, that's all built into the transfer. So it was just there for information. But then the holiday item, we did talk about garland, and I want to make sure I have this right. That is ordered this year now, so we can get it for Christmas 22.
Right,
And that's
exactly.
whole poles.
And I guess we're
Yes.
either giving or donating or whatever, or
Right.
whatever,
So it's on Old Orchard's agenda to talk about if they will be willing to pay you
a minuscule amount.
an amount of money. So
Yeah, and do we talk to Marshall or the people in Marshall too about that?
So Old Orchard or Old Webster businesses cannot be, the funds used from the districts cannot be supporting the investments out into other places. Now,
Oh,
if Old Orchard doesn't want it and you want to give the garland away, you can give it to the city.
Oh, I
You can
just
give it to the
meant-
city.
The other way around, like if they want to piggyback with buying more, but.
So with Marshall, we would have to connect with them and see if they want to purchase that, or if the city wants to engage in garland outside of the business districts out of the general fund. So that's we are bound to use the monies raised in the business districts within the business.
Right,
districts. So,
right,
yeah.
right. I got
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I fully understand what you're saying. There's no entity in Marshall other than the city's general fund
Okay.
as its own, so,
Okay,
but it's certainly easily done to inquire and see what they are.
I
looking
only
at.
asked because I've had two people come in the past few weeks from Marshall that have been asking us to include them on anything we're doing. So
Okay,
I just want to make sure that
Sure.
it's being discussed or talked about in some way or another.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
Because there's more than one Marshall in Webster. You're
Oh.
talking about Citadel, Marshall and Summit.
Yes.
Okay, not
Sorry.
the Marshall that's in by Rolling Ridge.
No,
Okay,
no.
I thought so, but I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yeah, where Maypop is
Right,
senior living helper,
Citadel.
senior helpers.
okay,
Sorry.
okay.
Yes, that's what I
I
meant.
was thinking
Yeah,
Rolling Ridge.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure.
yeah.
okay, and so then we're gonna, so on our bench
yes,
ordeal, we have to have, I guess we have to have someone, I can even do it, walk by and look at the benches and see exactly what we need and
Yeah, so if we have, Yvonne has done a walkthrough and looked at benches and
Okay,
we could classify all of them as needing some repair.
exactly right.
So it's a matter of, how many do you want to tackle? And, we can provide you a triage list if you wish.
Right.
We'll just walk through and do out of the 12 years, these ones are the top 5 we suggest fixing right away. And we do suggest eliminating that one that sort of sits by itself on the parking ramp that we talked about.
On the parking ramp, which is by.
So when you,
Park.
the concrete park, when you walk in, there's 3 in a U.
Uh-huh.
And you go past the steps, you're still on the first
Oh, that's
deck of the
right.
ramp, there's just
Exactly.
one that just
Right.
sits there,
Exactly, right. Right, right,
sort of by
exactly.
itself. So
Right, okay. So eliminating that, and we could, and I would like to look at, robbing, getting some parts off of some of them that are
Sure.
good, and then maybe put those up where the bench doesn't get used too much by our parking lot.
Okay.
The employee parking lot, but they're still cracked, and some people who do wait for a bus, or it used to be a bus stop there, is it still a bus stop?
no.
It's not even a bus stop anymore.
No.
Okay, then it may not get used very much at all, ever.
Well, actually, I see people there often sitting there really more at lunchtime and then
Okay.
waiting for school kids coming out.
Okay, all right, well then we should.
So yeah, I think it's a valid bench day.
Right, I'm not trying to eliminate it, I just think we could,
Okay.
Yeah.
make that one, it's not in the middle of the downtown district, we could at least patch some of these up, There's some kids around making that into a bike ramp,
Oh, wow.
which I
Yes.
tried to. And every time I see them, I run them off, but it's, they put boards on the back of it and launch off of it, so. Okay,
You look very much like a friend of mine right now. So
Oh.
I was like, oh.
all right,
So we can do that. So what I'm hearing is we're gonna rob some parts to make sure some of the more minor benches are put together. But then ultimately are we looking at repair? Do you want to go to the plank? Putting new composite planks was just almost as expensive as buying benches.
right,
for
like,
those.
let's find, like, there's a bench that has 2 or 3 cracked
Yeah.
slats, and there's one that has 9
Yeah.
the 9 one's gone.
Okay,
Just
making sure I've got
right,
that.
exactly, but if there's one at the very top that we could steal off to put on the other one that's not, that would be great if we can do it. It's
Yeah.
not so difficult to remove them, and I mean, I did one in front of Bill's place just to check it out, and so it's
Oh.
it's not that hard, but
Yeah.
Right.
so.
Can we get quoted how much the black benches are that are in the parks? So I wonder if those are more inexpensive than these.
the black metal ones with the,
And if it's more inexpensive to get those.
Right.
Than it is to replace.
We could maybe look at a quote on that as well.
Yeah.
sure, easily done.
Thank you. Would it help if somebody went around and took pictures of the benches so we had?
Well,
them?
I think Yvonne's already gone around.
Yvonne has done that, so
Okay.
we wanted to check back in and make sure we were exactly clear on what was it a complete
Plan was.
repair, replace, what was
Yeah.
the, so we will provide pictures and a triage
Okay.
list of, 6 that should just go, here's 6 that we can cobble together and fix up. to
And
a
those
usable state.
last benches, they did last, what you said, 15 to 18 years?
Forever.
20,
Okay, so
25 years.
so a long time, so the only, I'm definitely up for, hey, those metal benches are half price, that's a great deal,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Mhm.
But if they're about the same, those metal benches will have to be painted or, something eventually.
They
too.
take as maintenance too.
Right, exactly, everything will take maintenance, so.
And then in advertising, we did build in the extra sponsorship that you had
Jazz,
requested and
yes.
we talked about. And I don't know if Jazz and Blues Fest is on, but we also have the bandwagon for Blues Fest is all
For
booked
the,
and such, so.
Street
Street Fest, Street Dance, sorry,
Street
not
Dance.
Blues Fest, sorry.
Yeah.
Get too many events in my head. So that is all in there, and then the transfer amount, so the transfer amount and the property taxes. The finance department has looked at, the transfer amount will change yet just some, as we get the final numbers on soil.
Mhm.
The transfer out, property taxes are in the final revenue estimates right now, so they're going through the assessed values, looking at, what we can legitimately expect, so. Which I don't think you need to worry about to approve the budget. We always modify those numbers as needed, so. And then there was one final budget comment before we. Business license, that's what I wanted to make sure that business licenses, which we have projected at 37,000. Which again is 7,000 over this year's budget that we put in. but under the 21 actuals is an appropriate number from you all.
Okay.
That one is a fungible number. We can move it up or down. It's an estimate, so we need to stay in the realm of realistic, but
Right.
looking at it, we do expect more than 30,000 with the number of businesses and what we've seen in the past, but I didn't want to overestimate and push you too high, so. Anything more, it just goes in the fund anyways.
Right, exactly.
So.
Are there any other budget discussions? We already approved the budget.
Right.
For our last meeting, so this is just kind of going back over what we had discussed last meeting, so. Okay, rooftop lighting.
So Tom Stribe, who is the owner of Stribe, has been connected and contacted, and Fran has enjoyed the Old Orchard experience that we have. So we went to the owner because we weren't getting any response. I don't know if he's responded to Mark Hinkle. He has not yet responded to John Barr at Frisco. So we're at a place where I wonder if we should continue with Stribe. So that may change. I don't know. I haven't talked to Mark or John this week to know if they have gotten back. But we were promised that they would be sending out estimators to do the Olive and Oak building. Have not heard anything, have not seen the estimate. We did, I'll just bundle a couple of these things all together here. So we had asked, we don't normally buy our light bulbs and our light strands from Stribe. We have another vendor. They provided us a quote. It was way over what it used to be.
The quote from the new vendor? or
No,
the Stripe?
the old vendor.
The old
So
vendor.
the old vendor that had
Gotcha.
bought the bulbs and lights and such.
Mhm.
Was way over. So Stripe provided us bulbs. Bill, this is to your question and to Dan Warner's as well, that were incandescents, which obviously your meters are going to spin.
Yeah, no.
Right,
no,
so-
right.
They were returned. We have gone to a complete different vendor and have gotten bulbs and strings. They're all in my office. And so we're waiting on Stripe to make the connection, both to estimate Olive and Oak, whatever the next building is,
Mhm.
which we have not heard from them. I've not heard from Mark that they've done it, but we do have the parts, so we can, if we want to move vendors, we can. And
Okay.
so the city is more than happy to entertain that. I mean, there's other electric companies. I don't want to belittle Strides, or just we have not gotten the response to just go out and do an estimation and also to fix, like we're having the problems in Old Orchard. So.
Okay. Gotcha. All right, yeah, and of course, our building as well. Is still is.
Which we just talked about yesterday, so.
All right.
So in terms of rooftop lighting, we have bulbs for Dan Warner's project. So the bulbs that he wants, we have those. He was on an email I think I sent to all of you last night, or to Bill, Ron, and to him. So we have bulbs to, for any replacements there. We have the lights to go in the trees. They will go in this week. We're pulling people off Ivory Crockett, which is fine. Bill, I did not realize where the power was, so Public Works was going to go put them up, thought the power was on the light pole, didn't realize it was on the building. So that's on us. So that is solved now. They will put the tree in front of Canary, and then we don't know where the fixture is on Gore, but we'll ask Dan. We'll get it figured out, and wherever the power has to go in there. We also bought we have extra feet of the strings to go in the tree. So if we pick the next tree, we'll be ready to hang it up. So.
While we're on that, if we look at a different vendor, and I have had somebody that's been asking me about this, so I'll send you their contact, but we want to look at the light poles and just at least have them reviewed to know what the actual cost is to put an outlet in them.
Yep. I had honestly thought that's where the light bulb, the powers had gone in when we had them come out and do the power. So that's why I had sent Public Works out. We're all looking at light poles, so couldn't find power. So.
And Dan's building didn't need power. They found it where there was some power already, I believe, right, Bill?
I believe it's in the overhang, but he'll know exactly where it is.
I just couldn't see it visible to know where.
I think it's on the top side of the overhang.
That's why I couldn't see it. So. Okay.
All right. Okay, and district kiosk.
So we are asked for the quotes from 3 different companies. We don't have them yet to give us a district kiosk. And actually we've asked for just three quotes. So to add in, I've informally polled across some council members that are very willing to talk about that. I do expect some pushback at some point about digital signage, not enough in my opinion to say that it wouldn't happen. Because obviously the city has exempted itself in places, right? The Parks and Rec Department has a sign that we put up in that regard. So But there will be some folks who are just, we don't like the idea of digital signage that may come up in that conversation. So we'll get the quotes for you, and then it's just a matter of when we want to go to council. It'll obviously be the new council. I'll use that,
Right.
just given timing, so.
Yeah, one thing I noticed from the community survey that was done, and district kiosks was one of the items. It did not
No.
get the most favorable votes.
Right. No.
It did not do well, so it's something to consider. One of the things I was paying attention to, of course,
Yeah.
so.
So, and that, I don't want us to diminish an idea if it's a good idea for you all. It just really, I don't know that there was a lot of ideas that we saw in the ARP survey that were good for a lot of certain sectors that just didn't grab people's attention out in the general populace, right? And so, and that's to be expected. Biking of all the things, right? I did not expect improved bikeability of Webster Groves to become the number one vote getter in that.
I did.
tool.
Well,
Yeah.
I did not. I did not.
Son, did you vote on it 4,000?
My vote was to leave it right in the middle. I didn't, just because I didn't want to, okay, I'm kind of skewed there. So I purposely dumbed my vote down, actually.
Ron voted for $4 million.
Yeah.
All of
Everybody
it
that
was
came
like-
in, he's like, here's a tablet.
Yeah. But I do appreciate folks, but again, you have funds and there's other, we can always look at some other opportunities, I'm not sure if there's gonna be some grant funds. There may be some Main Street funds open, not from the city, but from other agencies that could help those kind of operations as well. So before I forget, totally met on the budget, Dean, Dewey's and Straub's, Yvonne has already applied for grants to pay for all the plants, soils and mulch that will be need to do the naturalization of those two spaces that we talked
That's
about. So.
Okay, awesome. Okay, down, we've talked about district kiosk, on-street parking.
I'm going to turn to Officer Razul and see if there's any, before we dive in, any issues that you've noticed or had brought up to you, officer, as we in the district.
No, sir, I haven't received anything.
Okay. So we are more than what we are still willing to send out the email, but folks seem to have, the parking restrictions are back on, enforcement's there and such. So I just was curious, do you all still think an email is necessary? I don't know what you're seeing with your fellow vendors and business owners. Do we need to say from the city officially, the email's ready to go?
Right, well, I don't know if it's an email, I mean, it doesn't cost anything, and it's just a friendly reminder that,
Okay.
that's what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a scolding thing, just like, hey,
I'm good at
remember,
scrolling.
on-street parking is for our customers, so we can all thrive and make Webster a better place. It's not for employees to park at all day. If you have employees, or you're the owner and are doing it,
New staff comes around also, so it's good if there's a new manager.
right, exactly, right,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
So we have it constructed. We'll get the email out. We've also got a map showing everyone again, here's employee parking
Right.
places, providing for your infrastructure, I'll call it that, to be able to
Right.
park at, so to be
Okay,
open for
that'd be
customers.
great.
So,
Yeah, our parking lot used to be almost full. Sometimes there wasn't, you couldn't find a spot in, but now it's not even close after
are
the.
you talking about the one
The
behind?
one behind
Yeah,
ours,
the
yeah,
congregation.
exactly, right,
The pandemic really
right.
has changed everything.
Cleared that out.
Okay, commission vacancies. So we have 2 open vacancies right now. It's about to be 3 probably in the near future. And so we desperately need to find some new people here. I reached out to Frank over at the hardware store. He can't do it. It's his only day off during the week and he watches his grandchildren. I don't know if anyone has ideas on who would like to.
I reached out to John Sutter. I feel like there's a little interest there. Somebody just needs to.
So Fran, can you send out a link to the application in the email format? Because so we don't have to search around and I've talked to a few people and they're like, they don't go to the website. They don't want to take the time to go to the website. I don't know why, to find the application. If I just had the email that I could forward to them, it'd be a lot easier.
Can do.
Send it to all of us in the district via email with a link.
Look at how fast you are. There it is, right there for you in the
Yeah,
chat.
but we will send it by email, but I put it in the chat just in case you want it, so.
Yeah, I think story 7 has 50-50.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that would
It'd be
be very great.
fabulous.
So again, if somebody walks into story 7 and says, they need another voice besides me.
All right, new business.
Oh, and hey, you know who else might be interested is the guy with Book Go right next to me.
Michael Shipley,
Oh, yeah.
So he wants to do an event. He called me yesterday and I think he wants to piggyback off of one of our Christmas events, holiday events. And then maybe have some tables out front with you, Ron, when you do something. He's got some vendors that want to sell books and it's a nonprofit. So I think a lot of people in Webster would be pretty excited about it.
He's done stuff like that before.
I don't know if I think he'll do the district, but I didn't bring that up at all. But his idea, I said, you need to get possibly with some other people. So your idea is, he was going all over the place, but sounded like maybe just piggybacking off of one of our events where we're selling things on Holiday Walk, that he put some tables out for some of the people that sell books. That'd be the easiest possibly way right now. But he wants to do he called me about wanting to actually have a parking lot, having a lot of book vendors and, advertising it and that kind of thing.
Well, our Christmas walk is on a Sunday, which kind of is not so conducive to the church parking lot, asking them if they would mind if he would set up a couple tables there. They're very receptive to,
Well,
they can't interfere with their church.
yeah, when you had your table out, like, and you have I'm forgetting what event that is, but you're putting out a
Holiday open
tent.
house. It's
Yeah,
a holiday open house. I'll reach out to him about the trade association
yeah,
and the holiday open house.
yeah. That'd
Okay.
be great.
And he could actually probably just take a whole parking space, really. I mean,
Yeah.
What's his first name again? I just said
Michael Shipley.
Michael, yeah. And like what you did, Ron, there's a lot of room down there by us, and especially down by Acme. So, I mean, if he had like 6, 8.5 by 11 tables, it just really wouldn't take up any space.
Right, exactly.
And there's really nothing going on in that area. So
Okay.
you're about the only thing that's happening.
No problem.
Stacy's numbers 494-3151.
All right, so we have no new business really.
no new business.
Okay.
Not yet. He
Um,
hasn't responded to.
BDC update.
Tim, do you have anything to report before I dive in?
I do not.
Okay, so I want to just highlight BDC meets Thursday. So we'll be talking about some things, but the business survey is open. That comes on the business roundtable. You all should have gotten that email. I just put the link, the shortened link, but it'll work if you just pull that into your URL in the chat. So
When did that business survey, when did that email go out?
you didn't get it? That scares me. That's been two
Might be
and a
only
half, 3 weeks.
ago.
Okay, well, I think it's sometimes I have people who delete things.
Okay, so the email wasn't, well, Fran may have sent
You
it.
got it twice.
You got it. You should have got it twice. So
Okay,
So the email from the city comes from our city
Right.
general account, right, through the website mailer program, and
Okay.
then Fran had sent it out again. We'll be sending another one out either later today or tomorrow with the reminder and an
Got
update
it.
for folks to do
Okay.
so.
all right.
When
But
do we have to do that by?
so it'll close on April 5th. So
Okay.
essentially think of election day. You have 2 things to do before election day: vote and finish the business survey. So and I just, for everyone, and it's been great actually, because you see a lot of folks just skipping the questions, which is exactly how it's designed. If you don't know the answer or don't care about the answer, you just skip right over it, right? But it's pretty exhaustive. It asks a lot of things like your target market, right down to, are you looking for low end, middle end, high end customers, right? I mean, so that, because when we look at a needs assessment for a shopping area, retail area and such, or professional services even, who's going to be coming into that district and what do we need to do for that area? So if you don't have an answer, feel free to skip it, but it is 60 questions.
Oh, my.
So it's It's good and exhaustive.
And are you able to go back to it?
You can go back to it and yep, you can go back and forth and forward, up and down and do as you need. So,
Just comments too. You can make all
yeah,
kinds of
you can
comments.
leave all sorts of salacious
I'm
comments
having
for me.
test
So,
anxiety already, just talking about this.
That's what I have time
I feel
for.
like I'm gonna pass out. It's not for me.
Eric, do we know how many people have filled it out so far?
I believe it's shade over 40. So high right on the first day. So now that we're in the last 3 weeks, we'll start doing every week the email out to the businesses. So, yeah.
Is there a way to see what type of businesses are the ones answering these questions?
So the survey does ask for your NAICS code, which if you're, it's the thing on the code that the tax forms use to what kind of business are you?
Oh,
You know,
okay.
like Bill's an insurance agent, so insurance has got a NAICS code, a retail bike shop, things like that. So we can sort by that once they're in. So other than that, just in the data that's there right now, we would look at the
Oh, okay.
names, so. Yeah. And we also have in there, because it also has gone to the contractors that work with the city, so, in terms of doing business in the city, the contractors are in that pool as well.
Okay.
So. That's my BDC update.
Okay, city update.
Officer Azul, do you have anything you want to bring up?
No, I don't have anything. I just want to ask about, is there a set date where you're gonna be ending the street parking for the like pickup or drive up? I know you said you guys gonna be sending out emails.
Sure. Well, let me talk with you and the chief, and we might end it as soon as this week. So we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so curbside, this is the issue ultimately, right? We don't necessarily want to take curbside pickup away, but also you can't just take a dedicated parking spot
Or four.
or four, right? So it's going to be a little bit of, we're ending it, you can still do it, Officer Rizul, for one spot, right? But you can't take a whole street for curbside. So the restrictions are lifted now, so we need to, I don't want to say return to normal order because I don't think there's a return. We're not going back to the way it always was. But this is ultimately something in the ordinance we're going to have to deal with because the flexibility won't last long, right? I mean, this is the problem Officer Rizul will have with ticketing, right? If we start, technically you're not supposed to have any parking spots used for curbside.
Right,
So,
exactly right.
so it's, we're gonna have to figure that out and get the language settled on.
Can we have just like in certain spots, like per
Absolutely.
block, have a
Absolutely,
designated
Right.
for all the restaurants? Like,
absolutely.
it doesn't matter if you're picking up from O&O and
Yep.
Parkmore, there's the same shared
Mhm.
spot for
Mhm.
pickup.
We-
I've seen that in other
We
cities.
absolutely can do that. And that's just something, when the pandemic came, we just said, we're not gonna enforce, and so you could do it, right? But now that we're sort of coming out of that, the actual regulations around parking don't include all those steps, right? So if you did put a cone out and make it curbside only, technically now you're violating the parking code by using it for
Do
that
we have to
purpose.
do anything to help with?
You don't, because Mara and I
Okay.
and Dale have
Okay.
been working on sort of what would that look like. We do think that model would be better rather than everyone getting one spot right outside their door. How do we, if you have a clustering of, spots, can you make that work? So. On city update, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 15-minute parking that we implemented around, very similar to that. But the one that I would also just toss out that could be an issue is CJ Muggs. They've kind of taken non-parking places and turned it into pickup. So that's something that will need to be addressed
Yeah.
as well
so,
too.
Yeah, obviously, curbside should not happen in a non-parking zone. I mean, the point of
Right.
those non-parkings are safety and coming around the intersection. So Officer Rizul, feel free if those things are happening. So
Yes, sir.
not often I get to tell the officers to go do something. So.
All
I
right.
mean, I'm just wondering too, like, even in the parking lot, the upper deck, if there was like 3 or 4 and the restaurants had runners
Yep.
that could run
Yep.
out the food over there
Absolutely.
instead of it being right in front of the restaurant.
Right. It absolutely could be. So.
I just wanted to add one more thing. Because it came up a few times when I was doing my parking checks. Few people approached me asking why some stores have several drive up for their food and some stores only have one. I don't want to name names, but
Yeah.
they were just wondering why there's discrepancy between some restaurants have 4 or 5 spots and some have 1. So,
And again, that goes back to our decision as a city to be just rather, I'll use the words laissez-faire about it with COVID, right? You know, I mean, we obviously we're gonna see a reduced traffic count with people staying at home. So take the parking spots, use them as needed. Now that we're in this new status of things reopening, it's really now going to have to be back to, again, looking at that regulation and how do we actually make a curbside availability happen, right? 15-minute type of pickup, but not overpopulate one whole street. I can see the streets you're talking about, you know, where many, many parking spots for curbside and pickup, so.
Well, we can't also ask the restaurants to make that decision for themselves, because if I was running the restaurant, I'm allowed to do that. I'm like, I'm just gonna keep doing this until
Exactly.
somebody tells me not
And
to.
that's what the city, that's what we essentially did allow. The
Yeah.
point is now we have to step back in as the regulator and, you know, it is as a public asset, right? I mean,
Yeah.
It is, so. The only other thing on a city update, we do obviously have election on Tuesday, the 5th, and on March 24th, which is Thursday, is the candidate forum from the League of Women Voters on Zoom or over at Webster U. So if you're very interested in the candidates, that is the time to see what they want to say and what they're doing. I know actually a few of them are talking about business issues I see in their campaigns. So obviously, if you're involved and want to be
That'd be
involved,
on Zoom.
it'll be on Zoom, yes. And so the city website and social media has all the links as well.
It starts at 7. right?
7, yep. I don't have anything else major. There's been no business license of new that has gone out that is either in your district or of consequence. So I mean, I can pull up the list if you all really want to see and go through that, but
The coffee shop, any idea on when they're gonna open up?
we have been told June.
What's their
June?
name?
Don't know. I'm sure I do know if I would look, but it's not one that's right here, so. All I know is I now am going to be torn between, do I go to the Garden Cafe or the new one? So I'm gonna have to alternate, so.
What about Clover and the Bee and?
And Stroud.
All those, right? Yes, I know. But those are the two now closest proximity and equal distance apart from each other, so. I'm just gonna stop buying coffee and just make it myself, so.
Go to tea.
Right.
I got a good old espresso maker for Christmas. You still using the coffee cup? the cake.
Okay, and so we do need to approve the minutes. Which we did not do.
I move to approve the minutes as they were presented.
Second,
Is there a second?
I second.
okay, all in favor,
I,
opposed? There we go. All right. Anything else, anyone? Please, if you know anyone who would like to sit on this board, please give them a nudge. Bill, I'll see about stopping by story 7. All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.